Hello, and welcome to the Inclusive Insights podcast, where we explore the minds and stories of exceptional individuals shaping the world of business. I'm your host, Neetu Razdan, and today's episode is bound to be a riveting exploration into the ingredients of a disruptive startup. We'll be uncovering the key ingredients that make a startup truly disruptive. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or someone fascinated by the world of business, this episode is for you. Joining us today is Ani Chaudhary. He's the CEO and co-founder of Dasera, a data security company revolutionizing data governance. With a rich background spanning Fortune 500 companies and multiple startups, he is a treasure trove of knowledge. Ani, welcome to the show.
Hey, Neetu, great to be here. And thank you so much for the very kind introduction that you just gave.
Awesome. Ani, your career spans Fortune 500 giants like McKinsey and Tata Steel to the dynamic world of startups. Would you share with us where you and how your journey started?
Yeah, sure. My journey, Neetu, actually started when I was in high school. It started with making small projects and letting my friends play, play different types of games that I used to design, and they would pay me just to play. That's where it started. And then over a period of time, when I went to business school, I ended up auctioning my class notes, and that paid for whatever vacation I wanted to take right after business school. So it's always been there. But when I actually started working was a company called Alfa Laval, which is a process engineering company based out of Pune. Then I moved to Tata Steel as part of the executive trainee program after my MBA. In the year that we graduated, they made a mistake. They generally take 6 to 7 people every year from across the country. I think they made a mistake, and then I got to join them and be part of a phenomenal executive trainee program. After that, I started my first company. It was called eCircle. It was India's first metals and minerals marketplace that was eventually acquired by Reliance. Then I started another company, which was an online backup company. Came to the US with 2 suitcases, not knowing very many business people. And that was eventually acquired by HP. After spending some time at HP, I started another company called Houdini, which was acquired by another company called Declara. That was in natural language processing. After Declara, I spent some time at McKinsey on the retail ops group. And after McKinsey, I started Dasera with my co-founder, Noah Johnson. And Dasera started because of a couple of incidents in terms of, like my Coinbase account had got hacked. At the same time, I was talking to Noah, who's a specialist in security. He's done a bunch of research in security, and we started Dasera. So that's the story so far.
That's an incredibly, amazing story. Very stellar background. So, to kick off our conversation around disruptive startups, I think disruption is more than a buzzword. It's a transformative force that reshapes industries.
Mm-hmm.
What is your idea of disruption when it comes to startups?
Yeah. So, there are 2 types of change that happens in the world. One is a 0 to 1 change, and the other one is a 1 to n change. So what that means is one is around inventions, and the other one is around innovations.
Mm-hmm.
When something never existed, which was a 0 to a 1, basically means that for the first time somebody did something. For example, think about the Wright brothers. That was an invention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you think about all of the airplane engineers, aerospace engineers who perfected what the Wright brothers created, those were innovations. While invention made sure that people could fly, it was innovation that made sure that we could have passengers, hundreds of passengers in an airplane. So there are these 2 types of things that happen. But whether it is a startup, which is a standalone startup, or a startup inside a large company, it is focused on 3 questions. The first one is what to change. The second one is what to change to. And the third one is how to cause the change. Everything that you do, including redesigning your kitchen, uh, or making some changes in your garden, to building a company, or changing the project in a large company. It's always about these three things: what to change to, and how to cause the change. And so to me, if you think about disruption, it starts off with your not being happy with status quo, something you don't like, right? If you think about entrepreneurs, they are happy with their lives, but not happy with the world in general. And they want to make that change. And so they know what to change. And then they have a vision, which is like what to change to. And then what they have to do is they have to articulate the vision, get take it from a vision to a shared vision where a lot of people believe in it, and that becomes like how to cause the change. So you bring in all the elements, and then again in that there are a few layers, right? If you think about the layers in that, number one is product. Like, what are you selling? It could be a service, but what I mean by product is your offering. Okay. The second one is how do you make sure that that offering is expressed to the world, which is marketing and sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is how do you deliver that offering? Just because you have an offering doesn't mean you can consistently deliver it, which is operations. So you have these three things, and then you wrap investors around that, and you have something that is a startup.
Great. So, talking about your current startup, the Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
can you talk a little bit about what and how have you disrupted the data governance world?
Yeah. So what Dasera does in a short phrase is we automate data security and governance controls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The way to think about it is uh, each of us, we have our real selves, and then we have our avatars. Our avatars are generally our digital selves sitting in different companies. If you have a bank account, your banking avatar is with, let's say, Chase Bank or Bank of America or whatever bank you're working with. If you're a gamer, it is sitting with whatever company you use for your games. It
Mm-hmm.
could be, it could be Roblox. It could be like any of the gaming companies. For example, if you are traveling, you have a digital avatar with a Marriott or a Hilton or an Airbnb. Okay. Now, what happens is, let's say you're walking down a street in your physical self. You create a space around you, which is your privacy and your security. Like, you don't want people just to be poking around or like hitting you on the way, right?
Yes.
However, what happens with your digital avatar is you're not in control of that. So bad things can happen to your digital avatar. And the consequences of that are on you. So for example, if somebody's credit card is stolen, and of course there is insurance and all of that, but you still go through the pain of having to call the credit card company and say, this was not a transaction that that was mine. And so what data security does is it provides companies the tools to protect you, right? So think about it this way. What do companies need to protect data? The first thing they need to know is, where is all of the data? So we are able to go discover all of the infrastructure in which the data sits. The second thing companies want to know is, what is this data? So we are able to say that this is HIPAA data, or this is data which is regarding financials, this is data which is somebody's PII, right? So that's the second thing. The third one, because these are data-driven companies, people want to know who has access to this data. So what we do is we map access to the kind of data in a certain place. And then finally, the fourth one that we do is data usage. That is, once you're given access to data, are you using it safely? So you're not stealing it, or you're not like sharing it with people you shouldn't be sharing it with. So those are the four things that the company does. Once that is done, we have a policy engine. So what is a policy is what business rules should everybody follow. And what we did was we realized that policy engines are very complicated. Like, you have to know the schema, you have to be an engineer. So we simplified it to if this, then that. So a non-engineer can actually write a policy, right? And then once a policy is in place, you should be able to create reports which says everything is great, or if something is not going well, then it needs to be remediated, right? And so we have a path to remediation, which is either automated or it can be escalated for somebody to review and then remediate. That's what Dasera does.
Perfect. I mean, it feels like Dasera definitely is disrupting the traditional approaches to data security or data governance. Is there a specific, say, customer example from Dasera's journey that you can share with us where you saw the disruptive impact of operationalizing data governance?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to our website, I'm going to say something that is already on the website, so you can go take a look at it.
Sure.
So one of our customers is a healthcare company called Omada Health.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges they had was that whenever they had to look up for specific things around data, it would take them a couple of weeks and a few people. Okay. Once Dasera came into play, the same thing can be done in 5 minutes. So that is super impactful because overnight you went from the world of typewriters to computers.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Thank
When
you.
you think about it, it feels not possible, but you guys made it happen. So congrats on that. Um, let's talk about leadership. So I feel visionary leadership is a key ingredient in the success of a disruptive startup. Um, do you agree with that? And can you elaborate on the role of visionary leadership or leadership in general in guiding a company through challenges and driving innovation?
Yes, but I'm going to qualify the definition of vision a little bit.
Absolutely, sure.
So if you think about uh, leadership, there are many types of leadership. There are leaders who are correct all the time and they're able to deliver, and there are many examples of that. But most of us don't have those superpowers, and we have to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, how I define my brand of visionary leadership is number one, to identify a problem that you're in love with, and then putting together a group of individuals who believe in that same problem, but then providing those individuals the ability to find the solution.
Mm-hmm.
In what happens is, in the journey, your vision is going to change and it is going to morph based on information that you're getting.
Yep.
And to me, that is visionary as well, when you're able to adopt to information that is coming in. Like you were, for example, if somebody said that, let's take the discovery that the world is round, right? There would be people who would say, well, the world is flat, I can see it, so it is flat, right? And then there would be
Right.
people who would do experiments and they will figure out that the world is round. But
Mm-hmm.
these are two extremes. Visionary leadership basically means that you may have believed that the world was flat, but when you see the information that the world is actually round, that you're able to move over and change your point of view. To me, that is visionary leadership. It is all about people. Without people, nothing moves, uh, and that's kind of what you focus on. You're learning on the job. And again, it also depends on different types of personalities. I believe that uh, anything that you know has a half-life of 3 to 4 years. So what you knew 3 to 4 years back is still in your library, but that's not a book that you read anymore, right? And so you carry some of that context over. So the context transcends time, but information is now and present, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, that is what visionary leadership means. One element of leadership which I truly believe in is the ability to focus on things when there is so much noise around you.
Mm-hmm.
So leaders are great at seeing things happen around them and still staying on the vision and realigning people, and that has to happen over and over again, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you are constantly aware that information is going to reset the collective direction, but the individual direction needs to be realigned to that collective direction.
Wow, that's really great. I heard multiple things here. I heard, foresight. I heard adaptability. I heard assessing. So, picking on adaptability, how do you as a leader ensure that the vision remains relevant and adaptive to the evolving landscape? I think you a little bit touched upon it, in the previous answer that, world is changing so fast. We need to kind of uh, be on that same speed. So how do you make sure that you keep your vision relevant to what is evolving?
Uh, Again, you have to borrow the ears of your team.
Hmm.
By that, what I mean is your salespeople, your customer success people, your engineers who are supporting customers, they are listening, right? They're listening to what customers require. Your
Hmm.
marketing team, your product team is talking to analysts. You have to listen to that, right? And
Yep.
then you yourself have to develop your point of view as well. And a combination of these things actually allow you to understand all of the data points. Now, there is a little bit of a twist in this. The twist in this is that there is data and then there is interpretation of the data. You can take the same data and interpret it many ways. So let me give you an example.
Hmm.
So in a far uh, away, in a country far away, at a time many centuries back, there was this person who was sent to sell shoes to a certain country. He
Hmm.
goes to that country and he sees that nobody's wearing shoes. So he's very disappointed and he basically writes a letter to his boss saying, "Boss, we can't open a store here. Nobody wears shoes. Shoes don't exist. They don't even know what shoes are." And he sends off that letter. Now the boss doesn't believe it. The boss says, "How can there be a country where nobody wears shoes?"
Hmm.
So the boss sends another person. And that person lands in that country. They shake hands, and he says, "Sure enough, nobody's wearing shoes." So he's in the evening, he sits down and he writes a letter to the boss. "Boss, send as many shoes as you can. Nobody wears shoes here." Now, there two people had the same information, but they interpreted it differently. So a lot of
Correct.
times people will say XYZ is data driven or XYZ is not data driven. The more important question is, how did you interpret that data? And in real life, there are examples. Like, so for example, when Steve Ballmer was told that Apple was planning to launch a phone for like whatever $800, he said maybe 100 people will buy it or nobody would buy it.
Hmm.
Guess what? That same research was available to Apple and the same research was available to Microsoft, and they interpreted it differently. And though they were both large companies, right? And I'm sure there are converse examples as well. But the underlying thing is that yes, you will have data, but how you interpret data is actually way more important than the data itself.
I really love this. You have data, and it depends on your interpretation of that data, uh, what your path is going to be. And the shoe story is fabulous. I really loved it. A lot of interesting messages in that one story. That takes me to our next, or something that's coming to my mind, which is innovation,
Mhm.
and tech also. So innovation is the heartbeat of disruptive startups. Can you share how groundbreaking technologies, and we're talking, Apple, and we're talking iPhone and stuff, how groundbreaking technologies and innovative solutions play a role in giving startups a competitive edge?
Yes, sure. So there is a very interesting book which I was exposed to very early in my career. It is called The uh, Discipline of Market Leaders. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that book actually talks about three things that are important when you're selling: the product, the service, and the price. These are the only three things that matter. Okay. If you look at any market leader, they excel in one and hit the threshold in two. So you can have extremely good product, Apple, but don't expect great service or great price.
Yep.
You look at American Express. great service, but not a great product because most places don't even take that credit card. And it's so expensive, so you cannot say it's well priced. And
Mm-hmm.
then the third example is Walmart. Great price, but don't expect great product or great service, right? And so when you think about innovation in technology, there are many ways of thinking about it. Are you going to use technology to make a product supremely better, right? Apple. Are you going to use technology to deliver a mind-blowing service? DoorDash,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you going to use technology to drop the price on something like Robinhood, share trading made cheaper, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, you have to pick one of the three. You cannot pick all three. You have to pick one of the three, and then you have to make sure that the other two, of course, hit the threshold. But you basically focus on one and then deliver whichever one of the three is going to be the anchor for your company. Because we are in Silicon Valley, a lot of times we think about uh, technology as bleeding edge, but good technology can also deliver bleeding edge service. It can deliver bleeding edge pricing because you can just do it so much more efficiently, right? So
True.
I interpret bleeding edge technology as the core that drives one of these three choices that a company needs to make.
Beautifully said, and it's pretty fascinating. So again, I'm going to go back to the Sarah. How do you foster a culture within the Sarah that encourages, continuous innovation among team members? As a leader, what do you do?
Yeah, it's a hard question, and it is not the job of a leader. It is everybody's job. It's like a
True.
round table. Now, um, you know, this goes back to values that a company has, right? So we've got a set of values, and someday we can talk about that in more detail. So one of our values is artistry and craftsmanship. And I'm just picking one at random. All of them are interdependent, right? So for example, customer obsession is going to drive your responsiveness to a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but one of them is artistry and craftsmanship. Not very many times in our careers, in our everyday jobs, do we think that we are craftsmen or craftswomen. Because the moment you use that word, what happens is you think of your job as something more than just a job. You're building something that is going to touch, impact, and move another person, right? And so to me, uh, so for example, what we do is we say there is artistry, which is creating the 0 to 1, and then there is craftsmanship, which is the ability to convert it into something repeatable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an example of innovation. I'll give you how we implement it. Of course, there is the everyday thing of information coming in, and we are doing the right things. We hear customer responses, we find patterns, and we try and stay ahead of that. But we also do things like hackathons, right? So we take a problem which has been sitting around, and we get people excited about a hackathon, and sure enough, in like 2, 3, 4 days, they come up with a basic product that still has to be engineered and made better so that it can be productionized. But you have a bunch of uh, ability to listen. You have a bunch of ability to kind of capture everything, find patterns, put it into a plan, and then get it delivered. And then you've got systems that work slightly outside of that to speed up things. And so it's a combination. And it's not, again, there is no perfection in this. You're always struggling, and you're always alive, and you are kind of frustrated, and you're related when it happens, and then you slide back, and then you've got good days and bad days. But it's like a North Star when your values are like, we are going to be artists and craftsmen.
That's great. I love how you started this, that culture is not a leader's job, it's everybody's job. That is so true. And not a lot of us think of it that way. Uh, another theme actually I kind of heard was promoting a mindset of curiosity and experimentation. I thought, hackathons is a great way to actually promote innovation. Then encouraging your team members to explore new ideas, share insights, collaborate across departments. I think all of this pretty much creates the right environment for innovation. And I think it's important for every company to have that kind of an environment where innovation can thrive. Next, I'm thinking we should talk a little bit about markets
Sure.
and market strategies. So disruptive startups often challenge traditional business models, as we all know. So, Ani, in your experience, could you walk us through different strategies that you as a leader or startups you have advised or worked with? What strategies have they used to disrupt established markets? Across different industries that you have experience with.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I think there are three drivers to how you think about markets. Okay, the first one is an emotional thing that you do, and that emotional thing is empathy. Without deep empathy, you cannot win a market. Why? Because you're trying to take care of somebody else's pain. If you
Yep.
don't understand that pain in every cell of your body, how are you going to put everything to try and solve it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the first one is, do you truly have empathy? If you don't have empathy for who you serve, you're better off working in a large company. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in large company, but there are more places to hide. There is momentum that will carry you through. In a startup, you don't have that momentum, and you don't have that, places to hide. You are the culture, you are the speed, you are the momentum. Like we are like just over 30 people. Even one person not believing in what we do is 3% of the company not believing in what we do, right? So that's number one. The second thing I think about markets is the ability to see the pain and go deep to understand why that pain is happening. Because a lot of times customers, like patients, do not know what is causing the pain. They can just say that something is causing pain, right? Is it a broken bone? Is it a ruptured ligament? Is it just a twisted muscle? Uh, People can say, well, I've got pain here, right? And it is also true for every space that you think about, is that the pain does not directly translate into what is causing it. Understanding that is the second part of the problem. And the third part of the problem is, can you create a product? It is a little different in B2B companies and B2C companies. In a B2B company, you will have to have sellers go and talk about it. And sometimes it's product-led growth, but mostly it is somebody interacting. And the second, in a B2C, it's better off being a product-led growth, because a product is able to speak for itself, right? So to me, again, like the three things: one is empathy, the second one is understanding what is actually causing the pain, and third one is the ability to find the solution and deliver that solution efficiently.
Great. I mean, it's easy to remember 1, 2, 3. But earlier on, we talked about Walmart. Great pricing, but you're not sure if the product quality is going to be great or not. So, do you feel pricing or introducing a new pricing model could be a disruptive strategy that companies or startups can employ?
Yeah. So let me actually explain product in Walmart. Product in Walmart is not the physical product you're taking off the shelf, right? When you walk into a Walmart, it is different from walking into an REI. Meaning, in an REI, you walk in and there's somebody who's going to tell you about how to size cycles. Is the backpack right for you? How to make that adjustment? So when I say Walmart and I say, well, service is not good or the product is not good, what it means is it's not the thing that people are buying. It is more the experience of buying, right? And so I know where this Walmart question came from. Can you change pricing? See, car companies have done it always. you've got Toyota, you've got Lexus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they have done is they've created brands that are kind of set apart, and then they've got cars at different price levels. Uh, the thing is, cars have existed forever. I think it's an archaic industry. I think it's going to die away in the next 20 years when people won't own any cars. Uh, but they've done it. Is it possible to do it? Yes, it is possible to do it. And you look at Nordstrom. Nordstrom has Nordstrom, and they've got Nordstrom Rack. Right? Gap has got Gap, and they've got Gap Factory. It's probably made at the same place. It's just priced differently. And so that's my 2 cents on pricing. Pricing is a policy. Cost is a reality, right? If you are able to take pricing to a point where the market can support it, by all means do it. But you cannot do it in the same store. You cannot say, oh, you'll walk into a Walmart, but you will feel like you are in, take one of the, let's say a Rolex showroom. You will not, because it just doesn't work. And also there is a brand identity. There's your values. Your values will come into conflict with each other.
That's so true. And, it's taking me to the point where I'm thinking it can be linear. It has to factor in every little tiny bit. As you said,
Yes.
brand. What does the brand stand for? And
Yep.
Walmart is Walmart because they help people save money, right?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I think today's world, everybody is sensitive about the price points and what they are paying for what they are getting. People want more for less. So I think that definitely in my mind could be a
Well, so this is where I'm going to, again, add to what you just said.
Definitely.
So the way to think about it is, and I'll also give an example. When, if you remember, about 25 years back in India, when when shampoos were launched in rural India, they knew that people couldn't afford bottles. So they used to buy sachets, right? The same thing, but you're paying in small installments, right? What has happened on the retail side, especially because of how hard it is for people to earn money? Like, we are very, very insulated from the reality of people having to not being able to eat. Like, so many kids in this country, which is one of the most rich countries in the world, they don't even get a full meal, right? They were probably, I think, more expensive things sometimes of a higher quality are actually cheaper than less expensive things. You think about your most expensive good shoe. I'm not saying just because it's expensive, it's good. But let's say you pick something that was expensive because it was good. It will last you 20 years. You buy something at 1/3 the price of that, and it lasts you 2 years. So in those 20 years, you're buying 10 pairs of shoes at 1/3 the price. Now you paid actually more than that rich person shoe, or who could afford it, right? That shoe. And so I think that when things are cheaper, a lot of times it's actually more expensive. Now the question is, can everybody afford to pay more to be cheaper? It's like rent versus buy a house, right? People are not being able to buy homes because they're so expensive, but in the meantime, they're not being able to build their equity. And so I think it applies to products as well, like retail products as well.
Definitely. It's a complex topic, and we can do a separate episode on just pricing strategy.
Just pricing, yes.
Right. So keeping with the theme of disruption, when I think of creating disruptive startups, I feel like agility and adaptability are crucial.
Yes.
How have these qualities played a role in the Sarah's journey and in the success of disruptive startups in general?
Yeah. So I think that timing a market is very hard. As many companies die because they're late as they are early. In fact, I think more companies die because they're early. In Dasera, our team makeup has a very good balance. We have people who want more data before they will do anything. We've got people who will want to kind of lead the dance. So we've got like this push and pull dynamic. But we have that set of people in the room who can always talk to each other no matter how hard a topic is. So it'll again come back uh, to the conversations that you have about agility versus stability. And you need a little bit of both. You can't say that a startup is always agile, because guess what? You didn't give it time to do something that has impact, right? On the other side, if you stabilize it too much, then you're kind of going to lose the race of being better. Now, the thing is, how do you counter it? Counter it. The way you counter it is by, let 1,000 flowers bloom and bring those 1,000 flowers to a table where they have an equal voice and they feel safe discussing, fighting, debating, giving in, taking on, like all of that together. And in the end, it comes down to, can the team communicate? Is the in and always remember, there is never perfect actions, only perfect intentions. You just need to get a group of people who intend that their peers win, and you will find that mix of agility and stability, challenge and data, like all of that will come together.
Perfect. To kind of elaborate more or make it a little bit more simplified, do you have an example or instance that you can share with us where you had to pivot or adapt swiftly to meet a market demand or address a new challenge or get a new customer requirement up and running in no time?
Oh yeah, we've got like many of those. Like we were when we started off, we were doing structured data in the cloud. We had this huge customer who said, well, yes, I have data in the cloud, but what about my data on-prem? And our team's engineers, like in a week and a half, they were able to build something that would actually work on-prem. We did the same with structured and unstructured data. We did the same with Microsoft 365. Like it's like every time that we hear a requirement and we think it's important and it's going to help us lead, the team just comes together, it just magically happens. How it happens, I think you will have to go to 5 different people to figure out how it happens. And that's the beauty of a system that actually works, that you can hand off the baton to the next person, and that person is going to carry it forward to the next person and the next person. You don't have to run all 4 legs to win the race.
That's great. And for some reason, it's just taking me back to the company culture. Have to have a culture of engagement, accountability, being a team player. And we oftentimes kind of underestimate, the role that culture plays, and how crucial it is in fostering disruptive startup environments. How do you at Dasera or in your previous startups, or even when you were in corporate, how have you encouraged an open environment where ideas are valued? I remember you talked about, in Dasera, you have hackathons, or you just get the team together and you guys kind of collaborate and come up with new ideas or new capabilities. But what else can you tell us where you have helped foster this open environment culture where people can kind of come together, embrace risk taking, collaborate, to actually just stay ahead of the game?
There isn't a fixed formula. And the reason why there isn't a fixed formula is because no situation is the same. And no situation is the same because the underlying facts are different. We as individuals are different. The kind of challenges that come up are different. So for example, there may be people in certain roles who can talk for an hour, right? And then there are people, if you give them 5 minutes, they'll still be quiet, right? And so there isn't a do's and don'ts. You just have to understand the intent, and you have to understand that, and again, this is going to be imperfect. Even the people with the highest EQ will have bad days, and people with really bad EQs will have good days. So all of that happens, right? But what you have to be cognizant of is that if people don't respect each other in a team, that team is already broken.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to respect an individual. They have to respect the good things that person brings to the table. All of us are imperfect, right? We are on that team not because we are replicas of each other, but because we fill in the gaps of our peers. So if you point at somebody and say, oh, that is your gap, it's like, are you the person filling it in? If you are the person filling it in, great, then you actually have a fit, right? And so a lot of times the risk companies have is to try to be very aligned in culture. They will bring in replicas and then they'll say, oh, our culture is so good. Culture is good when different types of people with completely different points of view can operate fearlessly. And every day is not going to be fearless. Some days, all of us have insecurities, all of us have levels of confidence, all of us have levels of competence, good in some areas, bad in some areas. And so it's like, I don't sail, but I'll use a sailing analogy anyway. It's like sailing. You have to do whatever you need to do, like change the direction of the sails, like, you know, and kind of flow with it a little bit.
Great. I feel having the right set of people or having the right team is important in fostering the right culture for the company. You said, hey, culture is not a leader's job, it's everybody's job. So at the Sarah or past startups or Fortune 500, how and what did you do to make sure you have the right set of folks in the team or within the whole company? How do you approach uh, hiring?
That's a good question. I think these are two different questions, actually. The hiring is a different question from, I think the first one that I will acknowledge is that I think I've made more mistakes on culture than most people. And without having gone through that journey, it is hard to understand everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that I understand everything, but like everything that I understand wouldn't have been possible if I had not made my mistakes or I had not seen mistakes. Or so the first thing is, I think a lot of companies. That day I was at an event and this was, and somebody mentioned that there are so many companies where they will project that they don't make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even when we are planning to go from place A to place B, we take a wrong turn. How can we not make a mistake when we are building complex solutions in a complex world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started with saying that, let's say, first thing is live with an eraser and write with a pencil. I actually do that, like physically, because it just puts me in that mindset. When it comes to hiring, mistakes a person will make is around hiring and managing. It is not around the business. It is not around strategy. It's going to be hiring and managing. Everybody will have to make their share of mistakes before they mature to make the right hires and manage in a certain manner. And then they will come across new things and they will make new mistakes. So there is no advice on this. A committee can make a mistake, an individual can make a mistake. A committee can be right and an individual can be right. And like, show me one company which has actually continually hired every right person. We only see the end product and we say, oh, this is a great company. Every company has gone through it. Every manager has gone through it. Acknowledging it makes the journey uh, better. You're able to learn faster and you won't feel alone.
Wow, this is definitely a challenge, and I feel like it's an art. There is no science in this. Hiring the right team members.
There is a little bit of science, but it is like you'll make mistakes even with the science. That's what I mean.
And another thing is that it's okay to make mistakes
It is
because
okay to make mistakes.
that's
Yeah.
where you
That is
learn.
part of the journey.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. That takes me because this seems to be the biggest challenge that all of us face while building startups or while we're hiring for corporate. So let's talk about challenges and failures. So I think no startup or no company or no business is there without challenges.
Yeah.
Could you share some candid insights into challenges either you faced or generally people you advise they face, and perhaps a story of failure that ultimately led to a success?
Oh yeah, many of those, right? Uh,
Yes.
Sam Altman, in one of his interviews, he said that the most important trait they look for in entrepreneurs is grit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
So why is grit important? Grit is important because there will be a time when you're in the South Pole and you
Mm-hmm.
will think that any direction I go is north. Uh, but what you will realize is you're still not at the South Pole. There can be something even worse. And it happens in the life of most companies. We
Yep.
hear all of these stories where somebody started something, it became very big. Uh, that's great. But that's not majority of entrepreneurs' lives. Majority of entrepreneurs are struggling, they're alone, they are doing the best they can with what they have, and they've got so much headwind. It happens all the time. So let me tell you a couple of things that we have gone through which have come out all right. One of my companies, we were kind of bootstrapped, and we were selling an online backup product. Because it was bootstrapped, we basically lived almost month to month to month every month. We reached a place where we were out of cash. So my co-founder and I, we took out cash on our credit cards and paid salaries. And we thought, okay, next month is going to be better. It wasn't. We did it again. Now our credit cards are maxed out. Third month, we go to the employees and say, we don't have money to pay salaries. And the following month, so we were 2 months in the hole. Not a single person quit. And within 6 months, this company was acquired for a very, very good outcome. So uh, these things happen. I've had a company where to keep the company afloat, I've had to sell my home. And that did not end well. And so uh, for every entrepreneur, this is what I will say to them, is that you make the world a better place, irrespective of the outcome. Without these experiments, the world would not be better. If people stopped experimenting, you would not see progress. There is a reason why there are so many shipwrecks from medieval times, because
Mm-hmm.
that was a time of explorers who physically went to explore new places. Yeah, you can talk about the flip side, which is the exploitation of native people. But let's look at the sun, not the shadow. The sun is this, that we are a race, we are a civilization, we are a people who are explorers. And we have to explore. That hunger of exploration is going to lead you to unknown results. Most of them are bad. Some of them are good. And uh, with explorers, they know the dangers. They know that they can uh, stay in the harbor and not be on a ship in the middle of storms, but they still do it. And entrepreneurs are today's explorers. They are the ones who are getting on the ships and charting new horizons. And so uh, I can't say enough about the grit of entrepreneurs who keep coming back, trying to find like new things that will move us as a people forward.
Wow, beautifully put together and uh, insane stories. I feel like two things that I can take away from this. There's a lot, but grit definitely stood out, and I definitely feel it's a big ingredient for any entrepreneur. And learning from setbacks, another powerful aspect of the entrepreneurial journey. and turning the challenge into a strategic advantage. We all, as entrepreneurs or founders or leaders, have to learn. Um, Now, tying it all back to our disruptive mindset, can you tell me if a disruptive mindset can be cultivated? And what are the mindset and habits that aspiring entrepreneurs can develop to foster disruptive thinking?
Now, the entrepreneurs should go to kindergarten schools and sit there for a minute. We, again, as a species, are where we are because we are tinkerers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that our education and our experiences and our uh, environment kind of decides whether you can keep that playfulness and that curiosity and that childlike approach to things alive. It is not because of the system, it is despite the system, right?
Yeah.
And in some people, it is going to be there, but because they are rebellious. They are going to break rules. And it's okay because maybe they'll get in trouble. If they have the right guidance, it will create something great. If they don't have the right guidance, they will end up in a gang, die a bad death.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are capable of tremendous achievements and tremendously bad things. And we are seeing it in today's world. It's all about the environment. If the environment allows you to do great things, you will do great things. And if the environment pushes you to do really bad things, we're creative there as well. So disruption is not a problem for humans, right? Uh, I think it is like, can you channelize that energy in meaningful ways and provide the structure so that mistakes are minimized? Can you provide them the resources so the solutions can be scaled? And once that journey starts, there is no looking back. And it goes in either direction.
Perfect. So now I'm kind of going to get a little bit personal. Is
Sure.
there a story you can tell us about you where you were able to channelize this disruptive energy and change a crazy habit into something that really was rewarding in the later years or currently is rewarding for you personally?
I'm sure there is, but my parents probably would know it better.
We have to have them on the podcast next, I think.
Yeah. No,
Awesome.
so I think that so let me put it like this. After business school, I joined the Tatas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and in the Tatas, which is a heavy engineering company, uh, I was the only, I think probably one of the few at least, non-engineering, non-technical graduates to have joined them. Like my background is literature. It's not engineering. And all of my 4 companies have been technology companies.
Yep.
Uh, so the thing that I had was, okay, I have empathy for the problems people are trying to solve for. Uh, can I understand it? Can I articulate it? And can I find a partner who can cover that technical gap? And I've been able to do that like successfully every time. So the weakness I had in this particular case is I'm not a technical person. How did I turn it into a strength? Is that I brought in somebody who is supremely technical and can be my partner. And this is just another example. I've never done a startup where I'm the sole founder. I will never do a startup where I'm the sole founder. Uh, it is like I have tremendous respect for people who are sole founders like yourself. I just am not geared for that kind of stress alone. Like I want to share the stress equally amongst everybody around us. And no, I'm just kidding. I don't want to, of course I want to share, but I don't want people to be stressed. But I do feel that that was a weakness. You asked for a question, like, was that a weakness? Yes, that not having a technical background was a weakness, but it worked out every time. And I'm sure it will work out every time.
That's amazing. I mean, this episode was fabulous. So much to take away. Thank you so much, Ani, for sharing, some candid moments, personal stories, invaluable insights, great advice, and for delving into the specifics of the disruptive journey.
Thank you so much for having me over, Neetu. I am happy to be a guest here. And if there is any entrepreneur who's listening and needs to talk one-on-one around issues they are faced with, it's not that bad. It will get solved. And if I can help in any way, please reach out.
Absolutely. We'll have the description, we'll have the details in the comments or in descriptions for the podcast. So that's a wrap of today's episode of the Inclusive Insights podcast. We hope you enjoyed exploring the ingredients of a disruptive startup with us and gained valuable perspectives on what it takes to disrupt and innovate in the business world. If you liked today's episode, please join us next time for more insightful stories. Until then, stay inspired and keep innovating.